Okay. Well, welcome everybody to my last board meeting, public meeting with you all. It's been a great year. We're going to have a business meeting tonight, very short, followed by Polished Apple Awards. So should be pretty exciting night. I want to share a screen with you. If I can hang on just a second. Got to get down there to the bottom of the screen, share screen. There we are. Share. Okay. And then I need to go slideshow. Where's the little slideshow button? Okay. It's great when you have somebody else do this for you. Okay. Well, no, I don't think that's shared yet. Quite right. How about now? That looks better.
Yes.
Thank you all for sponsorship. These sponsors were established at the Vancouver conference. If your name isn't up there and you would like it to be, of course, we will always accept sponsorships, and your name can company's name can just jump right up there. These will be the next sponsor list going through the coming year. And then for our conference in June of 2021, we'll call for new sponsors. But first off, really, thank you to everyone. It has truly been an interesting year. Here's your current board. And I just want to say thank you to Michael Davis for all of his efforts. He'll be stepping off of the board. This group of creative individuals has really helped us throughout the year. And I just wanted to touch on a few highlights. We established the concept of Connect Ed. And what that was looking at is really everybody involved in education, and that we really are all a team, and this makes it happen. We had other initiatives trying to tie the state together. So we had dinner meetings in Eastern Washington, Western Washington, same with the spring bus tours. Thank you to Lisa Thompson and Stephen Clark for heading up those spring bus tours. We had a day of service planned out. It's been postponed, but again, thank you to Bassetti Architects and Forma Construction for stepping up and working on that volunteer effort. It still will be Tillicum Elementary, and more on that to follow. But the circumstances that have happened over the recent months have affected us, and you might say adversely, but then again, with that comes creativity. And so starting in May, we had our first virtual tour, and it was really well received. Some people commented that it was more intimate and they were able to hear the design intent better because they were right there with the camera. So that part was great. And we had Reopen Schools Roundtable. By the numbers, you can see we had a pretty robust membership. It fell off a little, rebounded a little. And the same with the financial statement. It's still, I would say, healthy, but it is down from prior years. And we also, our international board, put out an equity statement, and a really strong equity statement, I would say. More to do. Our Washington chapter has more to do. And I really want to thank Liz Katz for bringing this issue to the forefront. Liz, are you on the line? Are you able to comment?
I am. Hey, everybody. I'm Liz Katz. I'm one of your board members. I'm at NAC Architecture. We have seen a lot of things come out of the Black Lives Matter movement as it relates to inequity and same with COVID. And so we're going to work really hard as a board this year to make sure that equity is a big thing that we consider, whether that's with Schools Next or some other programs. We really want to hear from our members on how we can fight the good fight on this. And so if you would contact me via email, I would love, we're going to try to do some committees this year because we're virtual, and I think that can spread the load and the love. And so please feel free to reach out to me and we can start brainstorming.
Okay, thank you, Liz. And like we said, more to do, and working to become a more inclusive environment. So looking back over the year, we lost some key individuals. Both Kelly and Steve touched our hearts and our minds, and they really gave considerably to A4LE. And so really they inspire us with that giving spirit. So in that giving spirit, we are now coming to our volunteer effort, carrying that forward, and we will need a secretary to step up. We had 2 owners reps that stepped up, and we didn't accept their nomination primarily because we're looking for a school district to step into the secretary role. In that regard, we had Paul White from Seattle Public Schools volunteer. So at this point, I'd like to ask if there are any other nominations. It's okay to unmute yourself. Okay, hearing none, do we have a nomination?
And this is Kyle McLeod. I move that we nominate Paul White with Seattle Public Schools to the position of secretary.
Do we have a second?
I second that nomination.
So we have, you should see a poll in front of you. I'm not sure how long the polling lasts, but it looks to me like the yeas have it. So I think it's okay to say we're ending the polling. Thank you all for that. I appreciate your participation. And with that, I'm going to go to our next slide. So here's your 2021 Board of Directors. Also, I wanted to say thank you to Philip Riedel for stepping into that international rep position. And I'm going to hand it over to Ben Field, your new president.
Thanks, Penny.
Thank you, Tane.
Yeah, so I get to be your president, coming in one of the weirdest years that I've ever had. I'm sure that you all feel the same way. But hopefully we'll be able to keep the chapter as close to normal as we can for everybody. We're trying to take a lot of opportunity out of the pandemic and create some new virtual initiatives that we're talking with the board about next week. Hopefully we'll be able to increase our geographical reach through virtual tours and virtual walkthroughs, and we'll be able to continue a really healthy and robust discussion as a chapter, and maybe get some new voices from Central and Eastern Washington as geographical distances become a little bit less important. But the real hope is that we all get back together again in person in the coming year, at least a few times. We'll have to see how the global health works and Washington State Health Department works, but that is the hope. So I think I am going to hand it back over to Tane. It looks like the agenda says that she's got some stuff to talk about now.
Well, Ben, I do still want you to jump in as often as possible. I do want to thank the Merle Kirkley scholarships. What an amazing slate of candidates. We had 12 applicants, and really every single one of them was deserving of a scholarship. We were able to pick 3 and notified them today. I don't believe any are actually on the call. Aliana and Dylan were both available by phone and were working, and so they weren't going to make the call. And I wasn't able to reach May Robinson directly. They are spread out geographically. I think curiously, all of them are going to a university with Washington in the name. Curious. Also, they are all going into architecture at this point. So anyway, all very well deserving and honored to be part of that selection committee. I wanted to say thank you too to all the tour submittals we had this year and the knowledge sharing that our chapter led through the last conference, the camaraderie that we had at the last conference. It was really a great effort. The tours that we had this last year included private schools. In Eastern Washington, there was a grocery store that had been repurposed into a high school and early learning center, new schools, historic schools. So really a lot of thought-provoking tours, and really appreciate that. And also I really appreciate the participants, the presentations that we had at these presentations, and that here again, that connected component that was initiated there. Ben, do you want to talk about upcoming events?
Sure. Yeah, we, like Tane said, we had to postpone a few of our events this year. The Day of Service Eastern Washington Bus Tour and Western Washington Bus Tour. Those are going to happen again this year. So look for those in the spring of 2021. We will try and get all of that back on track. We are also going to have our conference that was in Wenatchee and was postponed. That'll be in June of 2021. So we had a lot of things that had to get moved back, but they just got moved back. They didn't get deleted. So I do want to say thank you to all the people that put work and effort into all of those initiatives. Thank you to all the people who submitted their projects for tours that were selected for the bus tour. We're looking forward to that. Thank you to all the people that have worked really hard to make the Day of Service what it is. We're looking forward to being able to help out the school, and we're looking forward to seeing everybody in Wenatchee in June.
Melissa, would you like to say a few words?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Melissa English. I was the co-chair for the conference that was supposed to be this year that Ben is graciously, as incoming president, allowing us to reschedule for 2021. As Ben mentioned, there's a lot of volunteers. So I do want to thank, we have over 30 volunteers who come together through various committees to plan the conference. So we had to make the difficult decision in April when we had pretty much everything figured out to postpone. And with hindsight, that was clearly the right move. So it's going to be a great conference, different dates. That's a Monday through Wednesday, so it'll be a little different time of the week, but we had to go with what we could get. Like Ben said, we're going to keep the submissions on file. We will do another call for submissions. We'll also, those who did submit, give them an opportunity to either withdraw or update their submission. With Polished Apple, since we're having to do 2020 virtually, we will have a display board placed at the conference in 2021 for the submissions from this event, just so you get all those conference attendee eyes on there. And we're excited. Our keynote, George Kiros, who wrote The Innovator's Mindset, will be able to join us. And he's a great speaker on how to empower learning and unleash talent and engender a culture of creativity. So we're excited to have him, and looking forward to seeing you all in Wenatchee in person in June. So thank you, Tane, and thank you, Ben.
Yeah, thank you, Melissa and Rebecca, for coming back, and for really all of the conference volunteers coming back. I think Spiral is probably the only one not, but we won't hold that against them. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Ben.
Yeah, so a lot of the other events for A4LE for this year have switched over to virtual. So Learning Skates will be a virtual conference in early November. The conference that was scheduled to happen in Portland, the 2020 Pacific Northwest Regional Conference, is still happening, but it will happen virtually November 19th through the 22nd. So hopefully all of you can join online and participate in the conference virtually as they come up.
Okay, thank you. And I think with that, we are handing it over to Polished Apple Awards. So thank you all for submitting and for participating, and we have a really great moderator tonight. So Brandy is going to take us forward. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. There we go.
All right, everyone. This is Andrew Cottrell. I'm with BLRB Architects, and I'm just here to welcome you to the Polished Apple Awards. These are the 2020 A4LE Washington Chapter Polished Apple Awards. My name is Andy Cottrell, as I said, and it's been my pleasure to be the chairperson for this awards program. I owe all of the glory to my fearless co-chairs, however, Chris Feliciano and Robert Landa from Studio Minx Trezara, Stephen Clark from Integris Architecture, and Karen Wood from Malum. They all did all the work. I'm just here to open it up. This year, we had a pretty good turnout. We got 13 award submittals for the Polished Apple, despite the pandemic and all that meant to the submitting firms and to the school districts. So thank you all for your submittals. I think every project is deserving of an award this year. So I don't envy what we asked our jury to do. But with that, we also had a People's Choice Award that happened that all of you guys, the voting public, got to vote on. The counts are in and verified by Donna Robinson at A4LE. And despite being hacked by Russian voting teams, I'm pleased to announce this year's People's Choice Award goes to the Salish Coast Elementary School. We'd like to acknowledge the exemplary work by Integris Architecture, the Port Townsend School District, Absher Construction, Cascade Design Collaborative, LPD Engineering, Metrics Engineers, CN Consultants, and Halliday Associates. Congratulations, team. You can all clap. All right. So my next role here for today is to introduce our moderator for today's Polished Apple Jury Awards. Brandy Fox owns and operates CPM as an owner's rep. Her current work includes Mercer Island School District, Vashon Island School District, Seattle Girls School, and a church in Ballard. She has sailed nearly 40,000 miles around the world and back on her sailboat, Restless, with her husband, and she has a bachelor's degree in business administration and management from Boise State and City University. This is her second year as moderator after being a jury member for the Polished Apple Awards in 2018. Please welcome Brandy Fox. Brandy, are you still with us?
Let me start that again. Thank you. Thanks, Andy. This has been such a challenging year, and I am really pleased that the A4LE leadership decided to move forward with the Polished Apple Awards. You may all be zoomed out, but it's really nice to come together and get an opportunity to celebrate your good work. This year, as Andy noted, we received 13 submittals, which is nearly double the number that was received in 2019. These 13 projects exemplify the exceptional talent that each of you bring to our school communities. From the thoughtful and inclusive planning to the building and system design to the furnishings and equipment, it's clear that each of you are passionate about your work. We have a very special jury this year, and I'd like to thank each of them for the time and energy they've put into the selection process. We toured projects again this year, which was challenging, but infinitely important. So our first juror, Dean Mack, oversaw the facility and business side of several school districts during his career and retired in 2018. Dean was the CFO for Mercer Island School District and the Assistant Superintendent for Issaquah School District. He's been responsible for over 40 construction projects in his career. And I had the privilege to work with Dean at Mercer Island and can tell you that his experience and his wisdom and leadership and his friendship have been one of the highlights of my professional life. Joanne Duncan is another juror tonight. She is the principal at Lincoln Elementary in Ellensburg. She's a leader, a learner, and an advocate for student-centered learning. Ellensburg School District currently has 3 projects underway. 2 are in construction, and Joanne's school is in design with construction planned to start next summer. I feel a little bad for the architect working on her project. Your submittals and your tours gave Joanne lots of ideas, and I suspect that they raised her expectations for work at Lincoln Elementary, so our apologies in advance. David Strauss is another juror tonight. He's an affiliate professor at the University of Washington and a founding partner of SHKS Architects. Joining architectural theory and practice is a primary interest for David. His recent work includes renovation of Magnolia Library, as well as Suzalo Library and the exterior renovation of Guthrie Hall on the university campus. David is on the board of directors for the Washington Trust for Historic Preservation and served on the Pioneer Square Preservation Board from 2002 to 2009. He received his PhD and a BA from the University of Pennsylvania and his Master of Architecture from the University of Washington. David and I are currently working on a small church project together, and I find him an absolute joy to collaborate with. Jeff Boone is founding partner of Public 47. The firm's work has included multiple projects at Eastside Prep, as well as work for the Lakeside School on McKay Chapel and the Downtown School. Jeff's work also includes Rainier Vista Boys and Girls Club, Kenmore City Hall, and a number of residential renovations. Prior to founding Public 47, Jeff worked for Weinstein AU. He has a BA in architecture from Harvard and a master's in architecture from the University of Washington. The name Public 47 is a reference to his firm's interest in site specificity. Seattle is located on the 47th parallel, and a belief that architecture of all scales should have a positive influence on its surroundings. Public 47's Henry Apartments and the Shia are both recent AIA award winners. So with that, do I need to request control of the screen, Andy? I do. Okay, so our first award tonight, if I can get control. Oops. Our first award tonight goes to Lincoln High School that was done for Seattle School District by Bassetti Architects. David, I'll turn it over to you to lead the discussion about Lincoln.
Sure. This is an adaptation of a 1907 school in Seattle. An adaptation in terms of making it a contemporary learning space. It's really a model project from the standpoint of neighborhood continuity on the one hand, but also it really demonstrates the value of adaptive reuse in the community context overall, and also in terms of resource conservation and really the generosity of educational space in the 21st century. This is an image of the common space opening up into a courtyard, into an east-facing courtyard. If you could go to the next one. And we had talked about the other jurors chiming in whenever they feel like it. Nevertheless, I think I'm taking the lead on this. The spaces overall, the common spaces are intended to encourage informal learning, and they do. I mean, as is pictured here, there are these breakout rooms that are associated both with classrooms and with the primary circulation in the building. There's also a fair amount of borrowed light, given the fact that the depth of the school in 1907 was considerable in comparison to our recognition of the importance of daylight now. The next slide is the sort of an adaptation or sort of the renewal. Brandy, can you go to the next slide for?
There we go.
Yeah. So this is obviously the original stair that was used again. This forced me at least to put the project into context. And in 1907, we have to bear in mind that was the year that Pike Place Market opened up. It's also it was the year that Cab Calloway and Rachel Carson were both born. So this is really a long time ago, and it's really a long time ago in the context of educational the evolution of education. And so that's what really makes this project so remarkable, is the fact that a building that's 113 years old could in fact be inspiring in the 21st century. The next slide shows the new entrance, which is kind of tucked in between two wings of the building, and as a welcoming element in this project, it actually has to be contrasted with the original entrance up a steep flight of stairs. The significance of this is, on the one hand, you have an opening and sort of light-filled entrance. On the other hand, in the original case, it's really this kind of reference to English Gothic educational or collegiate Gothic architecture, and it's really supposed to make the school, have a dignified presence on the site, and it's just that kind of contrast that makes this also a really rich project. The next slide, the fitness room. This was an old study hall, so what it represents, and this is the architects clearly took a fairly light touch here, but what it represents is, just with big enough windows and enough generosity of space, you can make a lot of these rooms do just about anything. And in this case, I could very well imagine enjoying the cardio workouts that the students do. There's the next space. The next one is of some collaborative spaces. That again, clearly a school designed in 1907 wasn't really designed necessarily to support this kind of activity, but it does now. And through the efforts of really sort of carving space out of informal learning space out of what had been either just wide circulation corridors or conventional classrooms, the architects were able to make this a place where one can imagine a much more lively kind of education occurring at the high school level. The next slide is really represents the before and after section perspectives, and these are I have to say that these are really effective drawings, and in explaining design intent, and also also the sort of the interrelationships of the different parts of the project. And it really, the contrast between the two different sort of approaches couldn't be really more stark. What I did want to say is, in this context, the sort of the transverse section would have been really helpful. The section showing sort of coming through the original entrance, but also going back out the other side to the courtyard down through that common space. The next picture is the next slide is a picture of a sort of a smaller scale common space, really showing again within the depth of this old school being able to get borrowed light through the whole building. And then the next slide is that east courtyard, and the courtyard really opening up from the common space within the building itself. So this really does start to reach out into the site in ways that the old school really didn't in 1907. Then the next slide is it's a picture of the library. And really what the architects did in this case was really to expand the library, but removing some partitions that had been in place in the middle part of the 20th century. And again, the sort of the light in here is unmistakable, and also the generosity of space. So this is just a big volume for students to either enjoy working together or reading. The next slide is that library from the outside, and it's really open to north light, and it has a view over the parking lot, but it actually has a view beyond the parking lot to the neighborhood, and it's that kind of school to neighborhood connection that I think this project did really successfully. There wasn't within the presentation, within the sort of the submittal, a really captivating image that represented how important the project is from the standpoint of resource conservation, but there is some text to that effect. The building overall, because it retained all of the energy embodied in the building, represents a 65% reduction in embodied carbon compared with the replacement. So that's remarkable in its own right. But they didn't stop there, and so the building actually has an energy utilization index of 35, which which is remarkable in its own right, but it's also 54% below the AIA 2030 commitment. So this is a really, really high performing building within an old building. So it's really like it's as if the architects had chopped and channeled an old Model A to make it into a remarkable hot rod of a building. And I mean, I just want to wrap up and say that this is a really quietly ambitious and really successful adaptation of making a contemporary school out of an old one. And congratulations to the design team.
Great.
Jeff?
Oh, yeah. Go ahead. Well, I was going to add that I would really compliment the design team. From our understanding, it was a very restricted budget, and you did a lot with that. And you showed a lot of restraint and kind of minimized your insertions into this old building to give it new life. And those insertions ultimately seemed inevitable, which to me is a sign that they were very thoughtful insertions, such as the new amphitheater back to the courtyard, and then these new classroom levels, which seemed to it seemed like the original architect had kind of set it up for that in the future, but compliments to the design team for kind of seeing that potential in the old building.
Joanne, did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I think what was really just brilliant with this project is just the seamless integration of past to future, and just being able to see this new life of a welcoming environment for learning. There were personalized spaces, as well as we saw a lot of those spaces where there could be collaboration. I just thought it was really amazing what you did, and I'm just so inspired. And it's ironic that I'm at Lincoln Elementary, and we're in a very beloved old building, built I think in 1940, and so to see what's possible is really inspiring.
Dean, I know that when we were reviewing submittals, you were very passionate about this project. Would you like to share any of that?
Yes, I am also very involved in history in college. And I think that what you did here is just totally astonishing. To be able to take something that was built in an entirely different way and modernize it to the point without destroying the history and making it such an educational facility.
That's great. Congratulations, Michael, and everybody at Bissetti and your team for a really outstanding project. The second merit award tonight goes to Discovery High School. DLR Group was the architect for this in Camas, Washington. And Joanne, I'll turn it over to you to lead the discussion on Discovery.
Okay, I am going to be talking a lot more about just programming, and so any Jeff and David, anytime jump in if we're on a slide that you want to say something about the design. But this project, it was just a unique situation that in this district there's already an a middle school that is project-based learning, and so they took this big risk and had this courage to take it to the next level and design a building for project-based learning. And I think the programming in this building and the creativity to have the design match the vision of what learning should be and could be for now and the future was amazing. So on this slide, if you could go back to that other slide, Brandy. So in this area, this is when you come in, there's this large gathering space for learning. So it could be utilized in a variety of different ways. And they actually have, kids are in learning teams of 3 to 4, and that's how they go through their time at that school. Go ahead and go to the next slide. In this programming, what it shows, so the different learning contexts that we have, that students can be in project-based learning, a blended learning model, they can have an internship or receive traditional instruction. So when you see the blue represents teachers. So we see in one slide, maybe one section they're having a teacher in front of the class in a more traditional kind of model, but then throughout, teachers are just integrated in with kids, more of a guide on the side instead of being in front, just giving information for students to take in. There's wellness, just a lot of design in the building that allows for flexibility and student agency and ownership in their learning. If you want to go ahead and go to the next one. And what we see here, like the way they use space to they call think tanks, so kids can be in these leveled, enclosed areas where they can go and they can be working on, they call them passion projects. And what I love here is how they refer to students. They say students are epic. And so epic, it means students are entrepreneurs, they're producers, they're innovators, you can go ahead and go to the next one. Actually, I'm saying a lot about programming, so please, David and Jeff, or Dean, if you want to jump in and talk about any of the design, how it's up with some of the things I've shared about the kind of that. Go ahead.
I can jump in. Yeah, this project's beautiful and really restrained and edited. But the organization, we're moving away from the double loaded corridor or the dead end wings and organizing these kind of interlocking research learning pods around these double height common spaces just really reinforces part of their goal for the school to connect. And so you can imagine, unfortunately we weren't able to be there when students were there, but you can imagine there's constant life in the space between classrooms in this building. And by creating that space between, you create all these opportunities for unintentional and in a sense intentional interaction between faculty and students. Taking the auditorium, which is traditionally in a black box, and opening that up and becoming a center of the community. And so you can imagine students just casually walking by and seeing a presentation on 3D printing. So that, to me, that kind of space between classrooms was really rich. And I think we all left feeling like we wish we could go to school there or teach there. Just a really beautifully done project.
I think the other part of that was to have the to have that common space, that an amphitheater essentially right at the entry, pretty much states out front that the project is very much about focusing on the students. The other thing is the sort of the proximity of the shop or of the fab space to that entry and to that common space makes it also that's really the heart of the school. And as it turns out, and they actually have fulfilled their goal of making this a kind of students focusing on solving real problems, because over the summer they've been making masks for a number of the healthcare workers in the campus area. So the school really does fulfill the objectives. I mean, the building itself fulfills many of the objectives of the program and just Project Brief.
The use of color is very muted, but kind of sophisticated. The person that led the tour was talking about how they really want the color, the life of the building to come from the projects. But yet there was enough color, there was enough materiality to kind of take it from a warehouse of learning, I think is a word they use, but really an elegant warehouse at that.
They made a point, and a couple of their diagrams actually show this. The ones at the top here pretty much demonstrate that there's a lot of flexibility both horizontally and vertically, so that on the one hand the classrooms can intercommunicate, but on the other hand classrooms can then communicate upstairs, downstairs, and that kind of adaptability over time is really going to have huge value. The other thing that Jeff mentioned about the sort of the directness of the solution, the structure itself is really simple, and what that's done is it has made a really great shell for all this activity to occur and really to focus on student life.
I don't know what happened. My internet, I got disconnected, but back. So thanks for taking over. And I don't know if he said this, but that whole idea of engage, connect, and discover, and this space just so beautifully lets that kind of learning happen. And so students are more engaged when they're trying to solve real world problems in their community. It's hands-on. It's that personalized learning environment so kids can move at their own pace. And then that discover part is that they really do see themselves as innovators and scholars and members of the community. So I really just think this is what all schools should be, because within that they still allow, more traditional, there's just several ways to learn, and what we know is we just can't do the same old archaic traditional model of education, trying to educate kids for like an industrial revolution that's over. And I'm speaking to some of the most creative people here. So I just, with all my heart as an educator, am so grateful for your creativity and what you do to create these kind of spaces so that kids can become and see themselves as epic. So is there anything else? I just think this was amazing, and I'm excited for that community to have this kind of a space. Anybody else? Dean, or have anything to add?
We just shared with the group the same thing I shared with the team. When I saw this school, I was so excited about the design and the way teaching program and design was totally integrated. And I just want to turn it around at the age of 73.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Okay, so our Polished Apple Award winner tonight. Let me get back through this. Just to, sorry, went way too fast and too far. Okay, so our Polished Apple Award winner tonight is Lacamas Lake Elementary School in Camas, Washington, designed by Malum Architects. Landscape architect, 2 Ink Studio. We were incredibly impressed with their efforts on this project as well. So Jeff, I'll turn this over to you to talk about.
Great, thanks. Well, what a beautiful, timeless, thoughtful project. As one juror said the other day, this is a quiet building, but one that is very rewarding. It lives, the images are great. It's even better in person. That's not always the case, obviously. As a jury, we felt it hit every note, integrating educational philosophy, nature-based learning, thoughtful design and detailing, quality construction. Hats off to the whole team, the architects, the project managers, the school administrators and teachers involved, and the contractors. Wonderful project. Next, oh no, this is the right side. As you approach the building, its scale is very welcoming. It's settled into the site. The large volume of the gym and the commons is embedded in the 2-story classroom wing, which is pushed to the back of the site, buffered by the single-story administrative bar. The expression has a timeless quality, restrained use of materials, durable, subtle use of color, and subtle play in the brickwork. Visiting in person, it felt really comfortable, at ease, integrated with the site, and felt like it was going to age gracefully, both in terms of durability and aesthetics. Next slide. Oh, did you skip one by chance? No. All right. Can you go to the one with the counselors? We'll go back.
There we go. Sorry, this is moving quickly. Okay, I'll take my hand.
No worries. The interior was very delightful. Besides the high quality materials that were thoughtfully detailed and crafted, but not overbearing. As you move through the building, you find moments such as this. The counselor's office is positioned so everyone interacts with it daily. It's open, inviting, accessible. Behind it is the music room, which serves as the stage, or can serve as the stage for the multi-purpose commons. And so since it's raised, the entry into, if you can stay on that, counselor. So to enter that music room, you go up a ramp. And this whole experience creates this integration of the bench, the ramp, the music room beyond. You can, when the doors are open, you can see through to the exterior. Just creates a really dynamic, layered sectional experience. It gives views, supervision through the space, and it's just really wonderful to walk through. If you go back to the commons, at the heart of the building is the commons that looks into 2 courtyards at either end, but also connects to the gym and the classroom wings. A 2-story atrium daylights the space and links the program areas together. A large operable wall can connect the gym to the commons as well as to the classrooms above. Very dynamic and adaptable. Next slide. The atrium. Somehow there we go. You can see how beautifully crafted the atrium is. Daylight is almost sculpted, integrated with the structural system. From this point, the students and teachers are visually connected to the gym, to the classroom wings, to the commons, and then to this library, which sits at the knuckle of the upstairs. Go to the library slide. The library is another example of thoughtful detailing, providing nooks for kids to cozy up to a book with this beautiful indirect daylight to provide ideal reading conditions. As you saw on the slide with the classroom, daylight is thoughtfully addressed throughout the project, as well as the integration of casework, places to sit, storage. Everything is kind of thoughtfully taken care of. It doesn't feel like anything was kind of left behind. And throughout the project, as you move through the project, as you move up the stairs, for example, that was in the very first slide, and you hit the landing, you're connected to the outdoors. When you leave the classrooms, you're connected to the outdoors. So you're constantly thoughtfully rewarded as you move through the space. If you want to go to the first outdoor slide. And this is a good example of kind of the timeless quality, not just the integration of landscape, but just the timeless quality of the exterior expression. Next slide. As a juror, we were struck by the various outdoor spaces, both in the pictures and in the original submittal, but even more so when we visited in person. The reality did not disappoint at all. The design provides kids with a variety of outdoor spaces, from play areas to open space for informal play, to hardscapes for sports, to enticing spaces such as this, which is nestled into the trees, almost perfectly set up to have a music class. Next slide. Or to play around a tree. The design team here could have simply left the tree and made no new insertion. However, the construct of the deck with a sunken area around the trunk feels almost like a sunken living room in it, and it invites gathering and play. At its best, it may even spark creative imagination. I would not be surprised if the students, as they age, look back fondly to many times sitting around this tree. Beautiful project, and I'll open it up to the other jurors to comment.
Yeah, I think, Jeff, I agree entirely. The scale of the project is remarkably handled. It's not a small school by any means, but it's really welcoming to small children, and that it's done so deftly. The other thing is, as you mentioned, there's this kind of the palette of materials is handled in such a way that it's also warm and comforting, and we pretty much could have stopped with the photograph of the child reading in the nook of the library. That would be a remarkable project in its own right, but it doesn't stop there. And the sort of the connection, as Jeff was saying, the connections to the site are great. Now the site's likely to change. Nevertheless, there is, and the team mentioned this, that there's a stream that runs adjacent to the site that carries fish. So this is actually a pretty significant site in the context of student education about the environment. And the design team also reminded everyone that Dennis Hayes was born in Camas, or raised in Camas. So it's a significant school from the standpoint of in being custodians of the environment, and the project as a whole will instruct students in that vein.
I would just add to that, if I could, just the project, how they really had that vision of wanting kids to have a seamless feel of being in nature and using nature to learn from. It is just amazing. They even, have Richard Louv, who wrote The Last Child in the Woods, was part of their vision. And he says, the desire to protect the earth is grounded in a love of the outdoors developed during a childhood full of rich nature play. And that, even just that driving quote, is so rich and evident in every area of the programming, and then the way the school is designed. Just beautiful.
And I would share, I think it's probably been referenced already, but it doesn't matter where you go in the school, it is so open and welcoming that any kid would love to be to school. And I think you couldn't hope for me.
Yeah. That's great. Well, congratulations on an absolutely beautiful project, Malum. Just lovely. And so with that, should we open it up to Q&A? Is there any questions? You can put those in the chat that you would like to address to the jurors.
In the meantime, I'm looking for property in Camas.
And I think, hats off to Camas School District. To have 2 of these in the top 3 was pretty impressive. So they're doing something right as well. Okay, Andy, I don't see any questions coming up. I guess we'll turn it back over to you.
Okay, well, I'd just like to thank everyone, especially the jury, for your time and your efforts and actually getting out and touring these for the general body of A4LE. Dean Mack drove from Wenatchee and was at, I think, in Camas by 9 o'clock in the morning. So that was an extraordinary effort from the East Side schools, and we're just really pleased with everything that you guys were able to do. So I think that Tane probably has some, Tane or maybe Ben has some closing remarks for us, and I will stop sharing here so they can take back over.
Okay, well, thank you, Andy. And I just wanted to thank the jury, Dean, Jeff, Joanne, David, Brandy. Thank you for really a great effort, and I loved your comments. I don't know why we didn't get learning credit for this, because just listening to your comments and looking at these fabulous schools, really, there's a lot to learn. Also, I wanted to just acknowledge that, we have so many really great schools opening every year here in the Pacific Northwest. And I am honored that our board didn't want to let a year slip by. So while the conference is rescheduled, it was really great that we were able to push the Polished Apple forward. And so thank you to the Polished Apple Committee for really making it happen. So thank you. One other comment before I hand it to Ben. All of these virtual meetings are recorded, and so a membership benefit is you are able to go back and access that content. So there is a benefit to becoming a member and then being able to review that a lot of really great content. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Jane. And I want to echo everybody else's thanks to the jury and the moderator. Thanks for all the work that you put in and all the thoughtful comments that you had. I just want to wrap up tonight with a reminder that we do have a meeting in September. Right now, it's scheduled to be in person. It's in Puyallup, so my guess is it's probably going to go virtual, but we will keep everyone posted. 23rd of September, we are going to tour Fir Grove elementary school with the Puyallup School District. So please make sure that you watch your email for the reminder to come out for that and register when it does come out. And then I need to make a quick correction. Donna let me know that currently the regional conference has not gone virtual yet. So if that doesn't go virtual, hopefully we will see everyone in Portland in November for that conference. And with that, I don't have anything else to say, so I'll hand it back over to Tane to wrap everything up and end the meeting.
Okay, I thought Ben was wrapping it up. So I guess all I would say is, again, thank you to all. And I did want to just say one more comment about the Merle Kirkley scholarships. The 3 students that really stood out to us, one was really transformed by a day of giving. And she commented that she started her day just feeling like this is something that the school requires me to do, and really saw the life-changing efforts that just giving really, really inspires in all. So anyway, that was one really great comment. The other student really excelled in a bilingual program, and besides working in architecture as an intern, he interned in China at an architecture firm there. So he really stood out as well. And the third student grew up in White Salmon, Washington. I had to go to Google Maps to look up where this is. I guess if you're a kiteboarder, you know this is somewhat of a mecca, but not being one, I didn't know this. And so anyway, she talked about the small community and how really getting involved in community, she could see the effects that she had on the community and that the community then in response had on her. And so it was, like I said, they were all really deserving, and I was again honored to be part of it. So thank you again. That's all I have.